everyone, this is CJ Novo 992 and today we are back with another brand new video. Today's video we're here to discuss some breaking news coming out of Rangers Football Club, but before we go anywhere near that I just want to address the SPFL show obviously wasn't on today, and if you're looking forward to it or anything like that, I deeply apologise. Usually it's Monday 7 PM. However, Sharpdiv, who has missed the last 2 weeks because he's been on holiday, returns today, but he's returning far too late for the show, so he wouldn't be able to make it. And also Ryan118 has flown out to Spain for a little holiday, probably to celebrate a European exit. Nah, I'm only kidding. I really hope the weather's shite and his mattress is very uncomfortable. So what we've actually decided to do is cancel this week's show. We will be back next week, Monday, 7 PM live on YouTube, back with the full regular host. But, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we have so much to actually discuss. And again, I am not an expert on anything I'm about to talk about. I'm just going to try and give you my interpretation of it and my opinion on it, while also letting you know the latest news coming out from the managing director of Rangers Football Club, Stewart Robertson. So without any further ado, let's just dive into it, shall we? 3, 2, 1. The managing director of Rangers Football Club, Mr. Stewart Robertson, has today at 4:30 dropped an interview around about 7.5 minutes long on Rangers TV, calling for clarity regarding the disciplinary process in Scotland. That's right, the thing that everyone seems to be talking about non-stop, instead of the football now, which is actually getting a hell of a lot better. There's 4, 5, 6 teams now in Scotland playing pretty damn decent football. But instead of actually talking about the football that's actually getting better in Scotland, the reporters, the media, the pundits on Twitter, whoever, they're all talking about the disciplinary side of Scotland, which is just dragging our game down even further. We were at tin pot level according to everyone else. Now we're actually playing good football, blah blah blah, but they just slap us back down because we're a joke league with referees that didn't care what they're doing. Now this is actually something that's addressed by Mr. Robertson himself very early on in an interview, and he talks about maybe why this is actually happening, why there's so many inconsistencies. It's because it's completely changed from last season to this season, and it all starts with obviously the new compliance officer Claire, who came in to the job this season, and and it seems like she's kind of got a different interpretation of the actual rules. So instead of it being what it was like in the previous seasons or in any other league in the actual world that doesn't have VAR, obviously, normally the only incidents that gets reviewed is off the ball fouls or violent acts that's missed by the referee. If the referee sees it, there used to be a rule blah 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 that you couldn't refer it. That's all been flipped in the head. Obviously that happened in the Hibernian versus Celtic match, where someone received a booking from a referee, but it was then increased to a 2-match ban. So the rules are getting twisted and changes for certain calls but not other calls. There's teams being obviously punished for certain things, where clear incidents of other ones are just being completely ignored. And I'm not just talking from a Rangers point of view, by the way. There's certainly a lot of other calls. Hearts has been very unlucky with a couple of decisions I've been tagged in today since I actually tweeted out about this one. I've seen a couple from Hibs, couple from Motherwell. It seems to be slipping into every single game now. Obviously I just talk about Rangers on my channel apart from on Monday, so that is what I'm mostly focusing on. But when you actually look around and you look at the other games, it's absolutely horrific the way that the SPFL and the SFA is actually running this year, because it just doesn't make any freaking sense. So because there's so much confusion now within the game, every single call that happens in a game can now be reviewed, instead of, once again, being in previous seasons, violent conduct or off the ball fouls that the referee actually missed. You can do anything now. As a club, this is the way it breaks down. The managing director actually explained this. If you've got an issue, you call the compliance officer up. She then speaks to the referee, then determine on what he actually says or not, or if he agrees or disagrees with something, that will then get passed to a 3-man panel of former referees, grade 1 referees, my apologies. Now if they all come to an agreement that yes, there was something clearly wrong, that will then get issued to the club. Now the club can either accept or decline that. This is exactly the same situation that Rangers were just in with Alan McGregor. Remember when he was offered a 2-match ban? Now obviously if the club actually accepted that, and if Rangers had accepted it, that is where it kind of stops and it dies off right then and there. But just like Rangers Football Club, if you decline that offer of the match ban, it will then get sent to another panel with a full hearing in charge. Yeah, makes sense. Now the actual interviewer of Mr. Robertson asked him directly, do you think the game is now being re-refed after the game actually finishes? And I've got to just say, tip to the cap to that guy, because that is a terrific term of phrase, because I completely agree. That is the way the game's gone now. In Scottish football, the game doesn't finish that day now. You then got to finish that game, then 2 days later, Monday, Tuesday comes, you've got to see what Sports Scene's been saying at the weekend and what they've been highlighting, and then it gets re-refed once again. And before we actually go on and speak more about Sports Scene, because that was brought up in great length in the actual interview, I just want to say that Rangers aren't looking for special treatment. They aren't coming out here saying the compliance officer's against us or anything like that. Basically, the stance that they're having right now is they want the game to go back to the way it was before Claire obviously came in. So she can obviously stay her job. They're not calling for her to be sacked or anything like that. Just go back to the rules that actually make sense. The stuff that gets called up to the compliance officer, violent conduct or off the ball fouls. I mean, just make it easier for yourselves. Focusing on stuff that's easily controlled is going to cause a hell of a lot less inconsistent calls week in, week freaking out. I mean, if it isn't broke, then he fix it. And also, then he double down when it's clearly not working, compliance officer, and just stick with it for the rest of the season, because that's not helping anybody or any club in the actual division. So let's move away from the compliance officer and talk about something else that was brought up, as previously mentioned, Sports Scene. That's right, we are going to be talking about it. And if I'm being honest with you, so many of you guys comment this every single week in the comment section below. So many clips get shown up on Twitter showing how, like, single focused or player focused, we'll actually say, that Sports Scene seems to be on certain players in certain teams. Certain incidences, they just can't see no evil. But other teams, they basically nitpick and go through a comb to find something to actually talk about. Now, from a personal point of view, I'm going to put myself out there a wee bit. I don't actually watch Sports Scene anymore because I think it's heavily agenda based. That's just from my personal point of view. I'm not saying that's what your opinion should be. I watch that show and I think they've got certain ticks they need to get off the air. I think there's told today, and they comb that, they make sure they get their bits and their bobs, and then they're happy, and then they finish up and they get their paychecks at the end of the month. But again, that's just my point of view. What managing director of Rangers Football Club has had to say is, most of the incidents brought up, there's a very high correlation between the incidents highlighted and spoke about in great detail on BBC Sport and obviously in Sports Scene that then gets picked up on the Monday by the compliance officer. The correlation is extremely high. The numbers, the odds, whatever you want to say, whatever word you want to use, it's kind of hand and hand. Now, when I heard the guy say that, I was like, oh, yes, finally, someone actually says it. I'm not crazy. And this line of questioning / conversation continued, and he went in a wee bit more detail and spoke about, obviously, Rangers' problems with the BBC, which is quite well known now, I think, but just in case you don't know, obviously the BBC has refused to attend Rangers games. But it wasn't just the games that they actually refused to attend to, they also refused to speak to the players or any Rangers manager around that period. Now, obviously, since they have actually reached out to Rangers about going back and attending the games, but the BBC was still refusing to speak to any Rangers players or any Rangers manager, so that was swiftly rejected by Rangers Football Club. They cannot attend the games if they're not willing to treat Rangers Football Club like any other team in the division. And that's something that's been confirmed and spoken about once again by Mr. Robertson, saying they've actually heard from the BBC saying they do treat Rangers differently from any other club. It's confirmed, it's been said just recently as well. They do treat them differently, which made me sit back and just go, what? The fact that the BBC was willing to go out there and say, yeah, we do treat you differently, just straight to Rangers Football Club, is absolutely nuts. They've actually just confirmed it and admitted it. I mean, honesty is always the best policy right enough, but Jesus, this explains a lot. Now, something else that was actually brought up regarding this subject before we finish up and move on to the next one is, they've already confirmed that they treat us differently, they report us differently. So is this why they are kind of reported differently on Sports Scene? Now, that's on BBC. Is that why more Rangers incidents are highlighted than any other club? Is that why Alfredo Morelos was targeted for 3 weeks after the game, being hunted by every single one with a BBC contract? Is that why there was a decapitated picture of Ryan Jack tweeted and put on their website? It was up for about 7-8 hours before they actually took it down and had to come out and publicly apologise to Rangers. Is this why these things slip underneath the cracks? Because they just don't care. Now, I know we kind of went down the rabbit hole there and started thinking about it and putting all the pieces together, but I would like to just confirm that Mr. Stewart Robertson didn't confirm that. He simply asked the question, is that why they're reported so differently? Because the BBC has confirmed that they treat Rangers differently than any other team in the top flight of the SPFL. So before we finish up and finish on the last little thing that was actually discussed, what is your thoughts on that? Because my mind is just racing. There's so many thoughts. what is your thoughts on the BBC confirming that they treat Rangers differently? Let me know in the comments section below. And lastly, in today's video, what we've actually got to speak about is Rangers is coming out saying they're not going to tackle this alone. They fully expect more clubs to come out. Hibs has already came out on Friday and said a couple of statements, so they're obviously been in discussion. You've had Craig Levein, who's been incredibly vocal all season freaking long about the referees. I mean, he's Mr. Vocal so far this season. You've also got Stevie Clark. Now, he came at it sort of the wrong way and kind of tackled the wrong stuff, but his overall thoughts on the inconsistencies was actually correct. Whether that's kind of focused on certain clubs and not other clubs, the fact remains that Kilmarnock still got a lot of issues with the SFA, and there's a hell of a lot of other clubs. I've spoke to Gogs about Motherwell. There's been a hell of a lot of calls there, so I fully expect most of the clubs to come forward and actually get behind this initiative and get the rules to go back to last season's disciplinary sort of style, and that will actually get us back on the right tracks so we can what's freaking going on in the league. That would just be nice, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it just be nice to just focus on football rather than having to worry about what the referee's going to say or what sports scene are going to show the weekend and what the compliance officer's going to twist and stick and just go like this way to make things work. But anyway, that's me all done and dusted. I tried to give you the latest and breaking news out of Rangers Football Club. If you want to get your thoughts and opinions out there and join the nation, hit that subscribe button and make sure to be firing in your comments as well. It's always greatly appreciate to hear from you guys. I've been TJ Nova92. Thanks so much for watching, and bye.